Hey, Bill? Bill, can you do a mic check first before we get going? Good, just talking
Welcome, everyone. Good morning. So excited to have you here. I'm Bill Carpenter, the CEO for the Rochester Genesee Regional Transportation Authority, or as we're called here locally, RTS. It's an exciting day for our organization, our employees, and our community because we're celebrating the first 10 electric buses in our fleet. It's also an exciting day because we have so many special guests here to celebrate with us. We're happy to be joined today by our esteemed speakers, New York State Department of Transportation Commissioner Marie-Therese Dominguez. Representing the New York Power Authority is Rebecca Hughes, Senior Manager of Evolve New York. New York State Senator and Chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee, Senator Tim Kennedy. New York State Assembly Member and member of the Assembly Transportation Committee, Assemblyman Harry Bronson. Also with us, a great partner in the community, Rochester Mayor Lovely Warren. I'll read these additional names and then hold your applause till the end. Also joined today by members of our Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Jock Chapman, Commissioner Jardine Johnson, and Commissioner Bill McDonald. Representing U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer is Chris Zeltman. Representing New York State Senator Rich Funke is Gloria Hunter. Representing New York State Senator Pat Gallivan is Phyllis Wickerman. Thank you to our entire Albany delegation. Also with us is New York State DOT Regional Director Kevin Bush. From the project team, Carmine Fiore from New Flyer of America. Representing Reconnect Rochester, Victor Sanchez. Representing the Rochester People's Climate Coalition is Executive Director Abby McHugh-Griffa. Representing Greater Rochester Clean Cities are Mark Mosher and Bob Barker. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to thank our partners in the federal government for their support. I'll talk more about their share in a minute, but thank you to Senators Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, Representative Joe Morelli, and FTA Region 2 Administrator Steve Goodman. Let's give them a round of applause. The last person I want to thank is not able to be with us today. He's well represented by having Commissioner Dominguez here, but that's Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's the reason we're able to celebrate this milestone. It's his leadership and support of the people here today. So thank you, Governor Cuomo, and thank you all for being here. This project started in April 2017 when Governor Cuomo announced our $5 million grant for 5 electric buses and associated charging equipment. In the intervening 42 months from award to today was state-of-the-art planning, infrastructure analysis, construction, education, and training. And we're able to put together funding for 5 additional electric buses. And the way those different funders came together to make this project a reality is emblematic of the collaboration that made it possible. The total project cost is $12.4 million, with funding coming from New York State, the Federal Transit Administration, and emission settlement funds that were prioritized by Governor Cuomo so that electric buses could be afforded. Let's give a round of applause for our funders. Shifting gears, RTS is fortunate to have industry leaders in charge of this project. Led by our Chief Operating Officer, Miguel Velasquez, and 2 key members of his team, Vice President of Maintenance, Rusty Korth, and Director of Engineering and Facilities Management, Dave Velasquez. They did a fantastic job keeping the project on track and coordinating with our project partners. And with a project this size, a lot of partners are involved. Our partners from the federal and state governments are the Federal Transit Administration, the New York State Department of Transportation, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the New York Power Authority, and the New York State Research and Development Authority. Our industry partners on the project are Black & Veatch, Billetier Electric, EV Connect, Rochester Gas and Electric, and New Flyer of America. These organizations and their talented teams put in a lot of time and effort to help us put our first 10 electric buses into service. And after the MTA, we now have the largest fleet of electric buses in New York State and one of the largest fleets in the country. For context, so I said one of the largest in the country, so what does that mean? In Toronto, they have the largest electric bus fleet at 60 buses. So a market our size with 10 electric buses is both a significant milestone as well as a significant investment in zero-emission vehicles. And our work here in Rochester has positioned us well to meet Governor Cuomo's aggressive goals of 25% electric vehicles by 2025. So we need to go from 10 to 54 in the next few years, and 100% emission-free by 2035, which would be our full fleet of 214 buses. That leadership and leading the state through that goal leads us to our first speaker. Few organizations support us and work as closely with us as does the New York State Department of Transportation. It's why I'm happy to welcome to Rochester the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Transportation, Marie-Therese Dominguez. Commissioner?
Good morning, everybody. Bill, thank you so very much. It's such a pleasure indeed to be joining you here this morning. I want to personally thank you for your outstanding leadership as CEO of RTA, as president of the New York State Public Transit Authority Association, and your leadership in nationally as serving as president of the Bus Coalition, which is a national organization representing transit entities. Your leadership truly demonstrates the kind of leadership we have statewide, and especially on this issue. It is representative of the strength that New York State brings to the table, both locally, from a state perspective, as well as nationally, and we really, really do appreciate it, so thank you. And I also want to recognize our great partners in the New York State Legislature, our great leader for the Transportation Committee, Senator Tim Kennedy. He is truly a great advocate for all things transportation. Wonderful to always work with you, Senator Kennedy. Thank you very much. And Assemblymember Bronson, thank you so much for your leadership in the Assembly on transportation in particular. Greatly appreciate your representation of the Rochester area. Mayor, thank you very much. I understand you're a great partner here, Bill tells me. And thank you to our state partners, because it really does take a collaborative effort, as Bill went through the number of state entities that are involved in pulling something like this together. The level of infrastructure and support for a community is truly collaborative in many, many ways. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you on all of these key strategic investments to support New York State's environmental sustainability as we move forward, both here in the region and across the state. On behalf of Governor Cuomo, I could not be more honored to be here with you all today. I'm so proud to be a New Yorker, and the question would be, of the many, many reasons why I'm proud to be a New Yorker, it's because we lead, as I said before. New York leads on transportation infrastructure investment. We lead the nation as one of the top leaders in climate, and Governor Cuomo's advocacy and our legislature's advocacy in passing and recognizing the need to address climate issues couldn't be more critical. So we're leading forward on one of the biggest issues of our time that we're facing, and that is our changing climate. There's not a part of this state that has been spared the devastating impacts of climate change. It has resulted in extreme weather events both here in the region, flooding on Lake Ontario, storms, you've seen resurgence of them. We had Superstorm Sandy, just to name a few of the many, many extreme weather events that we've incurred here in the state of New York. But New York's leadership on climate is unsurpassed. And the transportation sector plays an incredibly key role as we move forward to protect our communities and ensure that we indeed have a very sustainable future. And in support of New York's climate goals, Governor Cuomo recently announced that New York is collaborating with 14 other states to accelerate the deployment of electric buses and trucks into public and private fleets, which is exactly why we're here today. This is a critical time to be in the transportation industry as we look towards the future of public transit and define how we can mitigate greenhouse gas pollution and its impact on our environment. We're constantly evaluating what we can do with the tools and the technology that are here now, but are also being developed for future application to make sure that generations moving forward can sustain themselves and do so in a very viable way. I think it's clear that the future is indeed electric, but also renewable. And creating that infrastructure for all of it is what we're going about statewide. Today marks a significant milestone for RTS and the state in working towards that larger sustainable infrastructure and that sustainable future that we have in mind. New York State DOT is truly proud as a representative of the 8,700 men and women that comprise New York State DOT. We're very, very proud to support RTS in its goal of achieving a 25% electric bus fleet by the year 2025. In fact, as Bill just articulated, RTS plans to go completely electric 15 years from now, and we look forward to not only meeting that goal, but achieving it. It may take a little bit of time, may seem like it's a long way away, but indeed, it takes time to make these things happen. It's an investment in our future, and that's why we have to start doing it today. This is the beginning of the phase out of diesel-powered buses, and they're going to be replaced with these cleaner, newer, electric, quieter buses. There's so many different ways that electric buses contribute to the reduction in all kinds of not just emissions, but also noise emissions. They're quieter, they're easier literally to transit the city. And I was talking to some of the mechanics. We got a great way forward in actually servicing them as well. So this move will ultimately reduce up to 175 tons of carbon emissions per electric bus annually. And it's going to promote cleaner air quality and improve our public health writ large. It's truly a great investment, better serving the entire region and truly enhancing the public transit system here in Rochester. That's why Governor Cuomo and I are committed to working together in communities across the state. Here in Rochester, as you all helping lead the way, the point is that we need to continue to make smart, forward-thinking investments in our infrastructure and our transportation systems. We believe that by promoting clean, sustainable energy and continuing the conversation about climate change, we can truly build back better and create a more energy efficient and sustainable environment for all. This is a truly fantastic achievement that we're celebrating here today in bringing the first electric buses to the Finger Lakes region. And we're excited to see that what's in store for the future for RTS in the years to come. Thank you very much for your aggressive work at trying to meet our clean energy transportation goals for the state of New York. Thank you for leading the way. Certainly in upstate New York, you guys are truly a standout, so thank you. Bill, I want to thank you again and your fabulous team here at RTS for bringing us here today. The kind of collaboration and partnership that we see truly embodies the leadership and what it takes to really transform things here and make our transportation cleaner and safer for not just folks here in the Rochester area and the Finger Lakes area, but statewide. Thank you all very, very much.
give Commissioner Dominguez one more round of applause. So the buses look pretty, and Rusty Korth and Matt Shaw, who heads up our fleet, tells me they can go so far and then they have to be recharged. So initially I thought it was just like a lamp. You plug it in, maybe your phone, plug it in, it gets recharged and use it the next day. Well, no, I found out there's a lot more infrastructure involved with that. And we've got great partners to work on that. The New York Power Authority has played a vital and key role in helping us, working with the local utility, getting the funding, giving us the advice we need for this to be successful each and every day. Representing the Power Authority is Rebecca Hughes, the Senior Manager of EV Evolve New York. Rebecca.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. I'm so pleased to be here on behalf of the New York Power Authority this morning. I'm sorry that the project manager for this work, Hugo Jewell, couldn't be here today. He worked tirelessly with Rusty and his team of the maintenance team at RTS to make this a reality, and I understand that it wouldn't be coming to fruition today if it weren't for them. I just want to congratulate RTS for stepping up as a leader and showing that zero emission transportation is in fact our future as well as our present reality, and making this happen. Today's announcement about 10 electric buses and the chargers that support them holds Rochester as an example for the rest of New York State. Our team at NYPA is pleased to support RTS's commitment to electrification, where the e-mobility team of engineers managed the construction of 4 of the chargers here today. The Power Authority has been collaborating with public-private partners for many years to deliver electric vehicle programs and services across the state. And it's because of programs like this that New York is playing such a key role in accomplishing electric vehicle adoption and becoming a national leader in greenhouse gas emission reduction. By replacing diesel-powered buses, RTS and NYPA are supporting Governor Cuomo's climate and clean energy goals and helping the state to achieve its target of zero emissions by 2050. As I was driving out from Albany this morning, I was thinking about transit buses deeply and what those have meant in my life. So growing up in Schenectady, I took public transit, city buses to school. I took them to work. It's where I saw my friends. It's where I did my homework. And that was a really important part of my community and part of my experience in connecting with the broader world around me. And you know, when I was thinking about today's opening, it's not just about the technology and all of the charging infrastructure that's supported. It's about changing our vision for public transport. And I really commend RTS for stepping up to re-envision what public transportation can look like. So it's not just about the beautiful buses. They look different, they sound different, they smell different. And I hope that in some way that's really inspiring, not only for the people of Rochester who use public transit, but for the operators and for the mechanics. Because we talk a lot about climate change and that vision for a cleaner future, and this is that vision materialized. So I think I'm just really proud to see these going out into the community. It's the first of many. And we do a lot of ride and drives. Those are events where we get people behind the wheel of an EV to experience an electric car. Electric buses can do that at scale, and it also helps people who might not otherwise see an EV to get a chance to experience one. So I think that's really important and shouldn't be overlooked, that electric vehicles are for all New Yorkers, not just those who can afford an electric car. And I'm really excited to just continue this work with RTS and to see what the next phase of this work brings. And as you heard from Bill and others, that this has been a team effort. It involves a lot of different moving parts coming together to support making this a reality. And I appreciate that teamwork that we've, where we've all leaned in to make this a reality, and we look forward to the next phase. So thank you.
Rebecca is a Chevy Volt driver for the last 4 years. She's singing from my sing a sheet of music. Really enjoy the electric technology and what it means for the environment. And it's a very pleasant drive. And public transit customers will be able to experience it as well. Our next speaker, you would think Rochester has had tremendous talent in the transportation committees of both the Senate and the Assembly for a number of years. The chairs have come from this region, and they've always been helpful in getting what we've asked for. But the Senate has a new chair who's not looking for what we're asking for, but reimagining how public transit impacts communities. And he's such a strong advocate. He's bending the curve on investment in public transit. I've had a number of in-depth conversations with Senator Tim Kennedy. He's passionate about our customers. He's passionate about our workforce. He's passionate about the communities we serve. And he's passionate about getting the resources so that RTS can deliver on that vision. So, tremendous champion, tremendous friend. Please welcome Chairman of the State Senate Transportation Committee, Tim Kennedy.
Good morning, everybody. It is really great to be here. Thank you for those very kind words, Bill Carpenter, and for your leadership. We are blessed to have an advocate and a leader like Bill Carpenter, not only here in Rochester, but here in New York State, really setting the bar for the rest of the nation. And as already been mentioned, not only the CEO of RTS here in Rochester, but also the head of the New York State Transportation, Public Transportation Authority Association. So we work very closely on these public transportation issues all across the state. So Bill, thank you so much for your continued leadership. It's always great to be here in your wonderful city. Mayor Lovely Warren, thank you so much for your leadership here. I'm only 80 miles down the road, so I try to get to Rochester as often as possible. I was here just yesterday, meeting with some folks. And listen, we have so much in common between Buffalo and Rochester and all of the other great upstate cities, not only historically, but presently and what our future holds. It's always nice to see Rochester doing so well and really being on the front line and setting the bar as you are here today. My great colleague in the state legislature, Assemblymember Harry Bronson, I will tell you, he is a true voice for Rochester and for Western New York and upstate New York. Thank you for your continued leadership as well. Assemblymember Rebecca, those are very great words, and the New York Power Authority has always been a partner, especially when we're talking about redesigning the future of energy here in New York State, and quite frankly, the entire Northeast United States. And certainly last but not least, who's become a great friend and champion for all of us as it pertains to transportation is our great Commissioner of the Department of Transportation, Commissioner Dominguez. Thank you so much for your leadership and partnership. And as has already been mentioned, we would not be here today but for all of those that worked together to partner to make it happen. We're hearing from some of them today. There are many behind the scenes that you're not going to hear from today, but really make the world go round, especially here in RTS and in public transportation here in Rochester, and that's the men and women of the ATU. Can we give them a round of applause, those that work so hard every day? We have an obligation to give them the resources that they need. So Bill touched upon it for years and years, maybe even decades. There's really, as far as I'm concerned, been a defunding of public transportation, or at least getting away from the importance and the prioritization of public transportation in the urban cores across this state. And we are changing that narrative. We are making sure that we're making strategic investments in public transportation to make sure that folks have the ability to get to and from point A to B, whether it be from school or to work or to anywhere else in the community, to ease and convenience of access. Of course, affordability is key, but we can only do that and we can only expand on the future of all of our communities, especially upstate, if we provide a robust public transportation system in our urban cores. And that's what we're doing here today. This is a part of a greater vision, but it is Rochester leading the way. It is RTS leading the way, not just here in Western New York or in upstate or in New York State, but really in the nation, really setting a bar to the next level. You know, in the state legislature, we passed the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act. And basically what that does is it makes New York State carbon neutral by the year 2050. And the board of directors of this task force agency that we've created basically have 2 years to put together goals to be set on an annual basis to get us to that 2050 carbon neutral footprint. Rochester's already ahead of the curve. RTS is ahead of the curve. By putting in this new fleet of electric buses, you're really the envy of public transportation across the state and across the nation. And I cannot emphasize enough the leadership that it takes in order to implement an initiative and a mindset like this. You have to have the guts to move forward and do something new. You have to have the partnerships, as we've mentioned here, working together to advance that cause. All of these things came together, the stars aligned. And it's the leadership being shown here at RTS that is really inspiring to me. And I can promise you this, not everybody is doing that. Not everybody's doing it. As a matter of fact, Bill can attest to this, in other areas of the state, and the commissioner can attest to this, they're going in the other direction. Or they're not taking the new goals seriously. Well, we are taking it seriously, and we are moving the bar forward, and we are going to make sure that not only we meet those goals, but we exceed those goals. And to think that Rochester and RTS will be fully electrified, their entire fleet, by 2035 is absolutely extraordinary, inspiring, heartwarming, and I gotta tell you, I couldn't be more excited to be a part of it. So congratulations to all of you for all of your hard work in making today happen, and we look forward to all the continued successes here in this great city and in this great community. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chairman Kennedy, for your kind words. Again, I appreciate your ability to bend the curve for public transit thought leadership across the state. The New York State Senate, until a few years ago, talked about the upstate-downstate divide. But on the assembly side, where resources went, there was a similar, when it came to transit, upstate-downstate divide. And there's a lot of Democrats there, but trying to get public transit the priority that it needed. RTS had a strong advocate over the last 4 to 6 years, not just in former Transportation Chair David Gant, may rest in peace, good friend, but also an Assemblyman Harry Bronson, who has always made time, anytime I've reached out, explained what we've needed, and explained to me, here's what's going on, here's the different members you and your association need to talk to. And we've seen that success the last several years of public transit funding being increased, revenues being dedicated so RTS can do more for our community, to see the kind of community that Assemblyman Bronson wants to see. And so please give a warm welcome to my friend, the Assemblyman Harry Bronson.
Thank you, Bill. And Commissioner, thank you and the Governor for your leadership in climate change and in the environment and as it relates to transportation. So your partnership is invaluable to us as we move forward. And Rebecca, thank you at the Power Authority as well for partnering with us. So, Commissioner, we can thank the Governor, and he, in large part, is part of this, but we also need to thank Bill Carpenter. Bill he comes to Albany year in and year out. He comes to my district office several times a year. He calls me regularly to keep me up to date on what's happening here at RTS. And his advocacy for this funding is unmatched. And one of the changes that we had, he mentioned 4 to 6 years, we started to see a change in the funding for transportation, and in particular for upstate transportation. And that change occurred after the assembly also created an upstate caucus of assembly members led by Transportation Chair Bill Magnarelli out of Syracuse. And, every year since we formed that caucus, our number one priority has been funding public transportation, in particular in our urban centers throughout upstate New York. And then we get Senator Kennedy, who becomes chair, and we get another partner in upstate New York that's gonna be fighting for transportation. And so thank you, Senator, thank you, Bill. And Mayor Warren, who tirelessly fights for the citizens in the city of Rochester. And what the mayor and I understand about transportation and why this is so important is because the lack of transportation, reliable transportation, is one of the leading causes of poverty. And, so if a person can't get transportation for childcare, transportation to get to work, transportation to go and get workforce training, all of those things, can't get to a doctor's office, can't get to a grocery store. That barrier is a factor in determining whether or not someone continues to live in poverty. So this is vitally important for our citizens throughout the region, but in particular for the city. And, the whole climate piece, that's about our children and our grandchildren. It's about leaving the world in a better place for them. And we're not gonna do that if we don't get control over pollution and over climate. And so that having this start with 10 buses is a huge step forward. And when you compare the largest fleet in New York State outside of MTA, that's pretty significant. Couple of interesting things. So I think the commissioner was talking about the buses, or maybe it was Rebecca, and how they're beautiful, look similar to the other buses, but very different. And some folks were sharing with me a couple of ways they are different. The buses are much more quiet. They're so quiet that there are speakers, so when they turn, a voice comes out to let pedestrians know that the bus is going to be turning, that there's a bus there, because you can't hear it. It's pretty amazing. And then, although you have to charge up the batteries, I understand they're in particular going to be used in the city, and that every time that the brake pedal is pressed, that it creates friction that then helps to recharge the batteries. So pretty neat technology that is going to help us get a control over climate change and pollution for our future generations. And then lastly, I think it was Scott Adair that said to me before the program today that there's 6 buses that are out en route right now. 4 more have to get 1,000 or more miles on them. And our bus drivers at ATU are training on those buses as we get them ready. So a thank you to ATU, the mechanics, and the bus drivers for what you do to transport our citizens throughout the region. Great project. I'm just glad to be here and support. Thank you very much.
Miguel and Matt, next time we have an opening in the maintenance department, sounds like we have a very knowledgeable individual. I appreciate the kind words about leadership, and it can be a very lonely role from time to time. And I've been doing this in this job for about 9 years, and there have been a number of times where I've had to talk to someone, can't be here, needs to help take that fog of a decision and bring clarity, and that encourage the decision, because it's gonna involve risk. And how do we get to the other side and make sure I don't step on any landmines? And one of those few people in the community I count on to keep that conversation confidential to be insightful, to provide me the information I have so I can stand here today, 9 years later, with these kind words, is because I haven't fallen in any landmines. It's because I've gotten that good advice. And it's from the great leader of our city, a good friend. Please welcome a great partner to RTS, our mayor, Lovely Warren.
Thank you, Bill. I am so excited to join you all here today to really talk about not just your leadership, but for your support for the residents of our city. Our assemblyman talked about the challenges that we face with poverty and other issues around childcare and trying to get to work and a doctor's appointments. And it is because we have a great transit system that our citizens are able to do that. So I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank your entire team, from your administration to those people that are on the board, for the great work that you do, to the people, the men and women that have been driving bus in the city of Rochester for many years. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were proud ATU members, Walt Grandison and Lisa Grandison. So the RTS has a special place in our household and continues to be a special place for us as we continue to go forth. I want to thank you particularly because 2020 has been a hard year. It's been a hard year for the citizens of Rochester, but through it all, we can count on RTS and the drivers and the administration to make sure that you're there picking up our residents during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we want to thank you all for that. I also want to recognize our commissioner as well as NYPA for your leadership and for being here on behalf of Governor Cuomo and for investing these types of resources in the city of Rochester. I know that many people know that Assemblyman Gant was near and dear to my heart, and one of the initiatives that he continued to press on was that making sure that public transportation was available to our residents. And I am excited to have a partner in Buffalo, and Senator Kennedy, who is the chair of the Transportation Committee on the Senate side, that is continuing in that leadership of making sure that upstate gets the resources that it needs in order to provide effective transportation to our citizens. When people talk about public transportation, they're usually talking about the subway system in New York City. Having ridden on a subway system in New York City while I was in college, I understand the challenges there, but we also have challenges in upstate New York. And so thank you, and of course, Assemblyman Bronson, for your hard work and bringing home the resources for our citizens. On behalf of the citizens of Rochester, we are committed to creating more jobs, safer, more vibrant neighborhoods, and better educational opportunities. This new fleet of 10 electric buses is right in line with what we are talking about doing here in the city of Rochester. As Senator Kennedy indicated, Rochester is leading the way. We are the proud leader among mid-sized cities in adopting progressive multimodal transportation systems. In 2017, we created a climate action plan, and using it, we built a solar farm, expanded our green energy vehicle fleet, added many miles of bike lanes, installed electric vehicle charging stations, and trained our residents in the field of environmental cleanup and remediation, and so much more. Now the city is hard at work on our climate change resiliency plan to identify our vulnerabilities and what we can do to overcome them so that we can create a cleaner, greener city for the next generation. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for making this investment, and I know that the best is yet to come.
Just 30 more minutes. I'll open it up to on-topic questions in just a moment, but sitting here and having people say, well, thank you, Bill, thank you, Bill, thank you, Bill. I want to please ask everyone to extend a round of applause for our Board of Commissioners who have been so supportive, not just on this project, but throughout time, and the entire RTS staff, the frontline workers up to senior management, This is an innovative, groundbreaking project that's taken a tremendous amount of work. The maintenance staff, the bus operators, the engineers, the thought leadership that's gone into making this successful, and putting all these partners together to make it work. It's an entire team effort. I happen to have one title, others have other titles, and believe me, on this project, there have been many whose role and contribution have been much more significant than mine. So for the RTS family, the board, throughout the organization, a round of applause. So, some logistics. Once we finish with any questions, our team will show everyone the buses and the charging infrastructure. And after that, we can split up. We've got a couple buses here that are ready to go. Give you a ride out on the street so you can feel how smooth the ride is, hear how quiet it is. So I encourage anyone who's got time to please take advantage of that. Our friends in the media are welcome to come along as well. Thank you for coming, and I'd ask, does anyone have any questions?
How far can one of these things go on a charge?
So thank you, Jeremy. The question is, how far can they go? Electric vehicles, as I know personally, are dependent on weather conditions. A day like today, 55 degrees, Rusty would probably say you can get 180, 190, maybe 200 miles. On a very cold day, closer to 100 miles, 110 miles. What's nice about these vehicles is back here at the store, we have the ability to monitor each bus to see where it's at, 80%, 70%, 60%. And when the vehicle gets down to 30%, we want it back here. This isn't something where if it runs out of fuel, you just send someone out with a 5-gallon tank. You never want a bus like this to run out of electricity. So great staff, great planning to make sure they work out there. But so 100, 110 miles to 190, 200 miles.
And how long does it take one of them to charge back up?
It takes about 3.5, 4 hours to recharge the buses. Well, thank you all very much for coming. Staff will be around if you have other questions. And I want to thank again our distinguished speakers, and please give them one more round of applause.